There is a law richer than money, and it has nothing to do with banks, balance sheets, or business plans. It is not found in a vault, but in a voice, not written in ledgers, but spoken in rhythm. Every billionaire who ever walked this earth, whether they knew it or not, moved under its spell. Some called it instinct, others called it timing, but I call it by its true name, divine law. And you who listen now are not outside it, not behind it, not disqualified by history or hindered by circumstance. You are standing in the exact moment that proves the law has already begun to locate you. For you would not be here, hearing my voice, unless you were vibrating in harmony with its invisible call. The law never shouts, but it never misses. It doesn't seek the masses. It selects the ready. You see, there is a myth in this world, deeply rooted and quietly deadly, that money is made by what a man does, that wealth is gathered by effort, secured by struggle, and handed down by legacy. But that is not the truth. It is not what they do that makes billionaires. It is what they know. Beneath every financial decision, every enterprise, every stroke of boldness, and every moment of divine timing, there lies a deeper instruction, an agreement with a spiritual current that runs underneath the systems of man. They may not quote scripture, they may never use the word law, but they are living by it, and those who do not perish in the illusion of effort. I have said before, and I say again with divine certainty, the word is the wealth. Speech is the software of substance. You do not create by effort, you create by rhythm. You do not gather by toil, you gather by decree. You do not inherit money, you inherit law. The ones who rise, rise because they moved from belief to command, from hoping to speaking, from waiting to announcing. That is the unseen pattern of wealth. That is the secret that is not hidden, but unrecognized. And you, beloved, have been found by it. Metaphysically, this moment is not just a video, it is a test. It is a filter, a door, a key. It will not land in the ears of those not vibrating with their future. It will pass like wind to the many, but sound like a trumpet to the few. And I say boldly to you now, you are among the few. You are not being informed, you are being confirmed. Your wealth is not far, it is echoing in your voice. Your riches are not late, they are coded into your rhythm, and your next level will not be earned, it will be spoken. They don't hustle, they harmonize. They don't hope, they decree. They don't try, they align. And this is the secret most never dare to see. The ones you call billionaires may have walked into boardrooms, yes, they may have launched companies, filed patents, signed contracts, built empires with their hands. But all of that was downstream. What was upstream was vibration. What was upstream was rhythm. What was upstream was the silent, sacred agreement with a higher law that governs all manifestation. And here is the truth that must break the old mold inside your mind. They may not call it metaphysics, but they live it. They may never speak the name of God, but they move like someone who knows creation obeys speech. They do not live by luck, and they certainly do not live by labor. They live by law. I have said before, and I'll say it again with spiritual fire, they are living by law. You are living by luck. But not for long. For something is shifting right now as you take in these words, not as information, but as impartation. You are being pulled out of the realm of chance and placed into the rhythm of certainty. You are exiting the fog of superstition and stepping into the science of spirit. Because spiritual law is not preference. It is not optional. It is exact, repeatable, sovereign, and no respecter of persons. It works for the farmer in the field as much as the financier in the tower. It works for the widow in the hut as much as the billionaire on the yacht. The question is never whether the law is working. The question is always, are you aligned with it or against it? Now let me show you the fracture, the lie, the trick the world sold you. that wealth is for the chosen few, that success is the result of secret contacts, expensive schools, inherited capital, or blessed timing. No, my dear, number that is the fruit, not the root. That is the outcome, not the origin. What they know is what you must now remember. That supply is not chased, it is spoken into. That favor is not earned, it is activated by frequency. That God has never once deposited wealth into the hands of the most anxious or the most exhausted, but always into the life of the one who understands spiritual dominion. Because dominion is not loud, it is not striving, it is silent confidence. It is the ability to move as one who is already answered, already endowed, already heard. They know something that bends time, that accelerates results, that magnetizes resources. They know their voice is the vault, that the universe, the marketplace, the hidden doors of wealth, they all respond to the one who speaks not as a beggar, but as a legislator. This is not arrogance, this is alignment. This is not fantasy, this is function. When they speak not to convince, but to command, not to impress, but to install. Their words do not flutter, they fall into place. And what you have envied from afar, this mysterious ease, this confident power, this unshakable presence, is not personality. It is proximity to law. So let me tell you, gently but directly, it is not what they have that makes them rich. It is what they know. And you, if you are willing to remember, to reprogram, to re-speak your reality, you will rise. Not because of what they know, but because of what the Spirit is now revealing through you. The world worships a lie, and they call it hustle. They chant its name in songs, wear it proudly on t-shirts, etch it into their schedules like a holy commandment. Work harder, sleep less, grind until it hurts. But I have come to expose the idol. I have come to tear down the altar of toil. Because hustle, in its popular form, is not holy. It is not sacred. It is not spiritual diligence. It is spiritual disobedience. Hustle is what man does when he forgets he has access to divine law. Hustle is what the soul attempts when it is no longer in harmony with the rhythm of spirit. Hustle is the language of the orphan, of the one who believes he must fight for what was already his by birthright. It is the noise of one who does not yet know the voice. Let me be clear, beloved. There is nothing divine about frantic striving. There is no virtue in exhaustion. There is no prize for being burned out and bitter, for dragging your body through projects your spirit never authorized. The secret of the wealthy is not that they do more. It is that they move less with more authority. They understand this simple principle. One word spoken in divine rhythm accomplishes more than 10,000 hours of misaligned labor, because when you are in tune with law, you become efficient, you become exact, you become magnetic, you speak the thing and the thing begins to move. You align your word with your worth, and suddenly what took others 10 years flows to you in 10 weeks. I've seen it too many times to call it coincidence. I've seen the man who worked 3 jobs for 20 years still live in fear, while the woman who declared daily that she was the wealth of God found herself flooded with opportunities she didn't chase. I've seen the tired, the loyal, the striving ones collapse under the weight of effort. And I've seen the bold, the declaring ones rise on the wings of law. This is not about privilege or position. It is about permission. The ones who rise are not the ones who hustle. They are the ones who have granted themselves spiritual permission to receive. And what is permission? It is not paperwork. It is not applause. It is not someone outside of you saying, "Go ahead." No. Permission is the quiet, powerful act of declaring, I no longer need to beg. I no longer delay my arrival. I no longer serve the false god of hustle. I serve divine order. You see, hustle is rooted in fear. Fear that there's not enough time, not enough room, not enough provision. But I tell you now, There is no fear in divine mind. God is never rushed. Law is never late. And the moment you stop sprinting toward your supply and start speaking from your source, everything changes. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. That is scripture. And it is not a suggestion, it is a law. The wealthiest men in the world have tapped into it, knowingly or not. They command rooms with silence. They make moves with stillness. They speak softly and carry the vibration of kings. They are not panicked. They are positioned. They do not rush. They resonate. So here is the invitation. Dethrone hustle. Dismantle the idol. Look at every area of your life where you are striving, where you are forcing, where you are chasing, and ask yourself, was this born in spirit, or was it born in fear? Let the answer convict you, not condemn you. Because once the lie is seen, it loses its power. And once the rhythm of law is remembered, hustle becomes obsolete. There is a secret so old it has been forgotten, and yet so active it governs every detail of your life even now. It is not found in the books of business schools, nor hidden in the speeches of corporate titans. It is not encoded in bank accounts or locked away in offshore funds. It has been whispered by prophets, sung by sages, declared by the mystics of every age. And still, it waits for you to hear it, not with your ears, but with your being. The secret is this: everything responds to the voice. The voice, not the action. The voice, not the effort. The voice, not the hustle. The voice, as shaped by spiritual law, is the software of reality. It is the code behind the wealth, the blueprint beneath the building, the command that calls substance into shape. This is the mystery that every billionaire touches, whether they speak of it or not. They may call it vision, confidence, instinct, but I call it by its rightful name, the law of command. When the word is spoken in alignment with divine law, creation has no option but to obey. Every cell, every dollar, every opportunity, every client, every supplier, every investor, every timeline, every door, they all bend to meet the frequency of the declared word. You were not designed to chase outcomes. You were created to speak beginnings, and your voice, when rooted in law, when tuned to truth, when stripped of begging and coated in boldness, becomes the gate through which wealth marches in. Let this penetrate deeper than your logic. Money is not moved by effort, it is moved by authority. And authority is carried not in credentials, but in the vibration of your word. I have said it before, and I will say it again. Speech is the software of fortune. Look at any billionaire who moves with grace. Watch the way they speak. They do not fill space with noise. They fill silence with certainty. They do not ramble to convince. They release words like commands from a throne. When they say yes, creation aligns. When they say now, time rearranges. They are not guessing. They are governing. They are not speaking to impress. They are speaking to install. Their voice is not a plea. It is a placement. And they may not know they are doing it. But the law does not need your awareness to work. It only needs your alignment. The law of command is not about yelling louder. It is not about false bravado or motivational noise. It is about spiritual congruence, the marriage of inner identity with outer language. When I say, I am the wealth of God made visible, I do not need anyone to believe me, because wealth itself hears me, law hears me, my supply hears me, my angels of provision hear me, the storehouses of heaven hear me, and they do not delay, they respond. You must understand this. The word goes before you. It is not simply what you say, it is what you send. Every word you declare builds the reality you live. And if your life is chaotic, if your income is unstable, if your opportunities are inconsistent, it is not your hustle that is lacking. It is your word that is scattered. It is your speech that is timid. It is your declarations that are apologetic. But the secret law, the one every billionaire lives by, whether by mystery or method, is that reality listens, and it listens first to the voice. When you speak with conviction, the unseen world adjusts its shape. When you declare with boldness, money reorganizes to obey. When you say, "Let there be," and your inner being matches your outer tongue, there is no force on earth or in spirit that can delay what is yours. Because the voice is not simply sound, it is signal. It is spiritual GPS. It tells wealth where to go. It tells provision how to find you. It tells the impossible, now you must become visible. So from this day forward, may your voice be your vault. May your breath carry codes of dominion. May your declarations no longer seek approval, but assume arrival. And if you do not yet see your wealth, do not panic. Just speak. If the door has not opened, do not beg. Just speak. If the offer hasn't come, the deal hasn't closed, the contract hasn't arrived, speak again. Speak until the substance cannot ignore you. Speak until the law must comply. Speak until the world mirrors back the truth you dared to declare. Let me now reveal what the world calls mysterious, but what I call mechanical in spirit. The formula is not force, it is frequency. The great ones do not rise because they are special. They rise because they are synchronized. They do not ascend because they toil harder. They ascend because they tune finer. Beneath the illusions of strategy, under the layers of deals and data and deadlines, there is a trinity: vibration, vision, and voice. And when these three are aligned, you do not chase success, you radiate it. You do not plead for riches, you pull them like a magnet, without sweat, without strain, without screaming. You enter the law, and the law carries you where labor could never go. The first element is vibration, not emotion, not excitement, not even belief in the conventional sense. Vibration is the underlying hum of your consciousness. It is the climate of your inner world. It is the unseen signal you are always sending, before you say a word, before you move your hand, before you make a plan. And billionaires, whether they use this language or not, live in a different climate. Their baseline is certainty. Their subconscious is not sabotaging their supply. Their energy does not collapse in fear. They wake up in a vibration of inevitability. Not hope, inevitability. That is the vibration that wealth hears. That is the frequency that commands form. That is the hum that moves heaven. But vibration without vision is noise. The second element is vision, and not the kind you scribble on a whiteboard or pin to a wall. I speak of spiritual sight, the ability to see the invisible so clearly that the visible must respond. The kind of sight that says, "I see wealth where the world sees nothing." The kind of sight that stares into an empty room and feels the clients. That looks at an unpaid invoice and sees overflow. That walks through an ordinary life but knows, divine fortune is already circulating, preparing, aligning, accelerating behind the veil. The billionaire sees before they have. They walk in the end before the beginning has finished. And their vision is not fantasy, it is template. It is the mold into which substance must pour. But vibration and vision still require the final key: voice. Because nothing changes until the word is released. Nothing unlocks until the tone is struck. Nothing shifts until the mouth opens and law is declared. The tongue is the switch. The word is the ignition. I have said this before, and I will say it until your spirit echoes back. Speech is not commentary, it is creation. And billionaires are not conversationalists. They are creators. They use words as tools, not toys. They build reality with language. They don't journal, "I hope." They declare, "I have." They don't explain. They command. They don't narrate the facts. They govern the facts with their decrees. This is why I call this the billionaire trinity: vibration, vision, voice. Each one amplifies the other. Each one feeds the next. Without vibration, your voice is hollow. Without vision, your words are blind. Without speech, your energy and sight go uncodified. But together, they form the divine current of supply. Together, they form the rhythm that opens vaults, splits seas, commands wealth, and reroutes history. When I stepped into this formula, I stopped asking for money and began announcing its arrival. I stopped waiting for signs and began creating them with my decree. I stopped explaining the delays and began overriding them with rhythm. And everything began to rearrange. So I say to you now, with the full force of spiritual law behind me, tune your vibration, clarify your vision, and speak from the voice of God within. Let your inner frequency rise until it feels inevitable. Let your vision burn so bright you can walk by it in the dark, and then let your voice thunder with truth, spoken not as hope, but as law. Say it again and again until reality cannot disobey you. Declare it until doubt collapses. Proclaim it until the atmosphere bows to your identity. There comes a moment in the life of every soul where silence is no longer neutral, where passivity becomes agreement, and where observation becomes participation, not by intention, but by default. And it is in this moment that the law of substitution must be remembered, not as a technique of positive thinking, but as a spiritual law of displacement, a divine command to replace the lie with the law, the fear with the truth, the appearance with the absolute. You see, you cannot remove a thought, you must replace it. You cannot fight darkness, you must speak light. You do not argue with illusion, you override it by declaring the real. And this is what the wise have always done, though the world called them foolish. This is what billionaires do, though the world calls them strategic. But I call it by its true name, substitution. Not substitution as a coping mechanism, but substitution as creation, substitution as the holy act of replacing what appears with what is, what screams with what sings, what crumbles with what cannot be shaken. You must understand, every thought is a builder, every mental image is an architect, every internal phrase is a design for your experience. And if you do not consciously choose your design, your subconscious will replay the old ones handed to you, by parents, by culture, by disappointment, by fear. Most people, I tell you, are not suffering from reality. They are suffering from echo, the echo of limitation, the echo of defeat, the echo of, we can't afford that. People like us don't get rich. Money doesn't grow on trees, and I'm just being realistic. These are not innocent statements. These are blueprints. These are permission slips for poverty. These are self-installed ceilings, and they can only be broken by substitution. When I first applied this law, I did not wait to feel better. I did not wait to believe fully. I began the divine work of replacement. When I heard my mind say, "There's not enough," I replaced it immediately with, "My supply is unlimited and flowing now." When I saw a bill arrive, I did not rehearse worry. I rehearsed wealth. I said, "I bless this demand, for it has already been met by my divine surplus." When my body felt fear, I substituted it, not with pretending, but with proclaiming. I spoke the higher law. I did not let the false lie unchallenged. I did not allow fear to sit unopposed. I became a living field of truth, not because I argued with fear, but because I replaced it at every level with law. Substitution is not denial. It is dominion. It is not ignoring what is happening. It is enthroning what cannot be moved. You see, billionaires may never speak of metaphysics, but watch how they substitute. Watch how they never repeat defeat. Watch how they pivot conversations, redirect energy, refuse to dwell in scarcity for more than a breath. That is the law of substitution in action. And I say to you, if you want to rise, if you want to live by law, you must become a master of your mental climate. You must replace every inherited phrase of lack with declarations of eternal supply. You must stop letting fear finish its sentence. You must interrupt the lie mid-breath with the word of wealth. Substitution must become your reflex. It must become your habit, your daily art, your sacred defiance. If you hear yourself say, "I don't know how," substitute, "Divine wisdom flows through me now." If you feel the heaviness of, "What if it never happens?" substitute, "What is mine is finding me fast, and I am aligned with its arrival." Do not argue, do not reason, replace. Like flipping a switch, like changing a channel, like trading rags for royal robes, speak the word that displaces the false and installs the true. Speak it even when your voice shakes. Speak it especially then. Speak it when the evidence disagrees. Speak it when the world mocks. Because every time you substitute truth for terror, you rewrite the shape of your world. And the more you do it, the faster the outer must obey the inner. So declare this with me now, from the belly of your being, with no apology and no dilution. I override all illusions with truth. I substitute lack with law. I do not echo fear. I replace it with the rhythm of divine certainty. There is a lie so ancient, so rehearsed, so socially accepted, that even the spiritually curious have bowed to it without knowing. It is the lie that prosperity is earned, that wealth is the reward of labor, that success is the prize given to the hardest worker, the most loyal servant, the one who paid their dues in the currency of exhaustion and time. But this is not divine law. This is human culture. This is economic propaganda. This is a doctrine of dust. For if money could be earned by toil alone, the hardest working people on earth would be billionaires, and the spiritually aligned would be broke. But heaven is not unjust. Heaven is orderly. And divine order declares, with unfailing clarity, prosperity is not earned. Prosperity is permitted. Let me speak it plainly. Prosperity is not a paycheck. It is not an award. It is not the fruit of hustle or the child of overtime. Prosperity is a law, a force, a principle written into the structure of spirit itself. It is the nature of the divine to expand, to supply, to overflow, to multiply. It is the rhythm of heaven to pour, to flood, to fill, to furnish. Prosperity is not man-made. It is God-given. It is not given by employers or markets or systems. It is not trapped in salaries or stock prices or scarcity. It does not bow to inflation or recession. It answers only to alignment. And when you speak, think, and live from that law, prosperity becomes your partner, your mirror, your natural state. Not because you worked harder, but because you stopped resisting what was always trying to reach you. When I began living by the law of prosperity, everything changed, not slowly, but suddenly. Not after more effort, but after a single decision, to permit prosperity to reach me without guilt, without begging, without delay. I stopped saying, "I need more." I started saying, "More is already mine." I stopped treating money as something to chase, and I began treating it as something to host, to welcome, to receive as a guest of divine appointment. I no longer viewed wealth as an escape hatch from poverty. I saw it as a natural echo of divine truth. And I learned what billionaires, whether they quote scripture or not, already know. Money flows where identity permits it, not where the grind deserves it. The law of prosperity demands that you shift your self-concept from servant to steward, from struggler to sovereign, from consumer to creator. The rich do not wait for prosperity to prove itself. They expect it. They presume it. They walk in rooms already aware that they are funded, resourced, carried, backed, and anointed for overflow. They move as those who are not applying for wealth. They are expressing it. And you must do the same, not from arrogance, but from understanding. You are not a beggar in the temple. You are the beloved of God. You are not outside the vault, knocking. You are the one who is the vault, whose very voice opens invisible doors. So I say to you now, Stop measuring your worth by your income. Stop filtering your identity through your bank account. Stop assuming you must hustle for what you are meant to house. Prosperity is not a stranger, it is your sibling in spirit. It is not a prize to win, it is a presence to host. And if you would become magnetic to money, you must first become a master of permission. You must give yourself the divine right to receive, without justification, without guilt, without apology. And you do this not through good behavior, but through bold decree. You do this by declaring, I am the wealth of God made visible. Money now comes to me, richly, rapidly, and repeatedly, under grace, in perfect ways. Speak it until your nervous system calms. Speak it until your doubt dissolves. Speak it until reality bends, not because your words have magic, but because they are law in motion. Say it and permit the flood. Say it and welcome the rush. Say it and remember what the billionaires live by. Prosperity is not personal. It is principle. And principle, when spoken with rhythm, cannot be denied. The world has taught you to request, to negotiate, to hope aloud and call it prayer, to frame your desire as politeness and your voice as something that must first earn permission before it dares to shape reality. But I say unto you, by the eternal law that governs all appearance, you are not here to request, you are here to command. You are not a petitioner, you are not a hopeful bystander. You are not a nervous intern waiting to be picked by fortune. You are the voice of divine authority in visible form, and your tongue is the tool by which the unseen becomes seen, the stored becomes released, the locked becomes loosed. You are the vessel through which wealth is spoken into motion, and those who walk in true prosperity do not ask. They speak, they declare, they announce with the cadence of royalty and the rhythm of heaven. They do not wait for signs, they give them. This is the law of command, the sacred principle that every billionaire uses, whether they know its name or not. Because command is not shouting, it is not aggression, it is not volume, it is vibrational certainty spoken into sound. It is the unwavering decision that what you speak has no choice but to obey, for it is spoken in alignment with divine law. Billionaires, I tell you, do not merely set goals, they install realities. Their words are not wishes, they are programs. They know that speech is software, that every sentence is a seed, and that what they speak, repeatedly, rhythmically, reverently, must crystallize into form. And yet the common man continues to beg, to frame his declarations with fear, to whisper requests as if God is withholding, as if heaven needs persuading. But God is not a vending machine nor a tyrant. God is the law. The law hears rhythm. The law responds to command. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. It does not say, thou shalt journal it once. It does not say, thou shalt ask timidly. It says, decree. That is the posture. That is the act. That is the vibration. When I learned this, I stopped correcting the outer. I started commanding the unseen. I did not rebuke the bills. I declared supply. I did not complain about the cost. I commanded the covering. I did not argue with appearances. I installed truth through speech. I declared, divine substance now floods my affairs. Every channel opens. Every blockage clears. What is mine comes swiftly and easily by divine right. And I did not just say it once, I made it my atmosphere. I let my command be the air I breathed, the beat of my walk, the fragrance of my day. Because law is not activated by emergency. Law is activated by rhythm, by repetition, by unwavering declaration. Do you not see? When the Christ healed, he did not beg, he did not explain, he did not say, if it be thy will. He said, rise. He said, be made whole. He said, stretch forth thy hand. That is the law of command in action, not mystical, not emotional, not circumstantial, authoritative, rooted. spoken as if delay were illegal and contradiction irrelevant. And that is how you must speak now, not because you are trying to manipulate God, but because you are finally agreeing with Him. The law of command is not optional if you desire to walk in overflow. It is the requirement of those who would build kingdoms by breath, and it begins now. Not when you feel more ready, not when you get more confident, not when your circumstances change. Now command, not because you feel powerful, but because you are. Command, not because you know all the steps, but because the first step is speech, and speech unlocks sequence. Command, because wealth is not far. It is listening, it is waiting, it is hovering, ready to obey the sound of spiritual certainty. So let us command now, not as a performance, but as a prophecy. Declare with me, I now command riches to appear in divine order. I speak and my good obeys. I do not wait for evidence. I provide it by the authority of my voice. If your breath carries law, then your word carries wealth. Speak now and do not look back. There is a law so quietly powerful, so divinely invisible, that most pass it by thinking it too simple to matter. And yet every billionaire walks in it, some with conscious alignment, some with subconscious agreement, but walk in it they do. It is the law of assumption. The law that says you must not only speak wealth, you must assume it. You must wear it in the silence of your mind before it wraps itself around your life. You must see it before others do. You must embody it before it pays you. You must become it in frequency before it greets you in fact. Assumption is not pretending. It is possession by spiritual agreement. It is the invisible contract between your inner world and divine substance, a covenant signed not with pen or paper, but with unwavering inner stance. I did not become wealthy by wishing. I did not become abundant by dreaming. I became wealthy the moment I assumed I already was. And not just in declaration, but in essence. I assumed wealth in how I sat, in how I answered the phone, in how I walked down the street and paid the clerk and breathed at the mirror. I assumed wealth by becoming incapable of imagining lack. I trained my soul to reject the vibration of worry the way the healthy body rejects poison. Because the law does not deliver what you want, it delivers what you walk in. And assumption is the posture of the spiritually mature. It is the stance of those who know the word is more real than the world. You cannot trick assumption. You cannot fake it with a surface smile and an inner panic. You cannot say, I am wealthy, while making decisions as if you are cursed. You cannot say, I receive divine supply, and simultaneously panic over the price of groceries. The law does not respond to what you say once. It responds to what you become repeatedly. It answers to spiritual consistency, not emotional sincerity. Assumption is not about loud confidence. It is about silent certainty. You become unshakable, not because things are perfect, but because your inner eye refuses to entertain the image of defeat. Look at the ones who walk in overflow, not only the billionaires of finance, but the billionaires of peace, the billionaires of joy, the billionaires of inner power. They assume their wealth. They move as if they are supported, guided, and supplied, because in truth they are. They expect doors to open not out of arrogance but out of spiritual memory. They assume favor, not because they've earned it, but because they've remembered it. They carry the invisible robe of completion, not sewn with threads, but woven from identity. This is not imagination. It is law in motion. And so I say unto you, begin to assume now. Do not wait until you see it to believe it. Believe it until you cannot imagine not seeing it. Assume abundance in your posture, in your pace, in your plans. Walk through your home as if it were a palace. Speak to your bank account as if it were already filled. Sit at your table as if divine appointments are being arranged in your name. Make decisions not from your history, but from your destiny. Move from the already, not the almost. Assume that God has gone before you, and you will see his trail in every outcome. And when the voice of doubt whispers, when the echo of past circumstances tries to break your rhythm, declare, I am already who I have spoken. My assumption is law. My identity is complete. I do not become wealthy. I remember that I already am. This is the law of assumption, to walk as if, to speak as if, to think as if, because in spirit it is done. And what is done in spirit cannot be undone by sight. There is a law that governs timing, not the ticking of the clock, not the calendar of man, not the anxious pacing of human schedules, but the perfect, powerful, unwavering beat of divine order. This law is not bound by delay, nor is it shaken by urgency. It is called the law of divine rhythm, and it is the final law in the sacred sequence every billionaire obeys, whether consciously or unconsciously. This law whispers a truth that sets the weary heart free. What is yours cannot miss you. What belongs to you by spiritual decree will arrive by spiritual rhythm. And if you are willing to align with this beat, to walk in its pace, to breathe in its pattern, you will see wealth move in your life not as chaos, but as choreography. Those who are truly wealthy do not panic. They do not rush. They do not chase. They do not claw their way through doors not meant for them. They move in rhythm with divine flow. They trust the timing of what is forming. They do not water seeds with worry. They do not dig up promises with impatience. They understand that true wealth does not just come. It arrives when the rhythm is right, when the inner frequency has synchronized with the outer manifestation, and they refuse to be thrown out of cadence by what they cannot yet see. Their secret is not control. It is attunement. You see, when you chase wealth, you move out of rhythm. When you beg the universe, when you plead with God, when you demand results from a heart of fear, you create dissonance. You disrupt the current. But when you speak from rest, when you decree from peace, when you declare from rhythm, you magnetize. The rhythm is already there. It is not created by your effort. It is discovered by your stillness. It is uncovered by your trust. The river of wealth does not respond to frantic paddling. It responds to surrendered steering. It flows to those who are tuned to its beat. I remember when I learned this law, not from theory, but from spiritual experience. I had spoken the word. I had declared the law. I had assumed the identity. But I still did not see the outcome. And I was tempted to doubt, tempted to adjust, tempted to speak a contradiction. But then Spirit whispered, You are not waiting. You are aligning. And everything in me stilled. I began to walk with the rhythm, not against it. I stopped asking when and started declaring now, not as a demand to force, but as a recognition of frequency. Now is not a time, it is a tone. It is a vibration of faith that says, what is mine is on the way, because I have already spoken it in divine rhythm. Do you not know that everything in nature obeys this law? The sun does not rise faster because you are anxious. The seed does not bloom because you begged. The tides do not change because you're tired of waiting. Everything in divine order moves by rhythm. So why should your wealth move differently? Why should your breakthrough be governed by pressure instead of pulse? I tell you now, you do not need to speed it up. You only need to stay in rhythm. You only need to remain in law. You only need to let your words keep beating the frequency of divine certainty. Because in due season, in divine season, what is yours shall appear. Declare with me now, not from striving, but from synchronization. What is mine cannot miss me. I move in divine rhythm. I speak in divine order. I walk in divine timing. My wealth is not delayed. It is aligned. Let the world run in circles. Let others stress and scream. But you remain rooted in the law of divine rhythm. You don't chase. You don't control. You harmonize. And what is harmonized must arrive. There is something cruelly beautiful, divinely ironic, and eternally just about how the law reveals itself. Not through thunder, not through fire, not through the roar of accomplishment or the parade of success, but through the whisper, through the ordinary, through the plain and the practiced. It is not hidden in complexity, it is hidden in simplicity. And that is why the masses miss it. That is why the billionaire rises quietly while the striving man shouts. That is why the few ascend while the many remain baffled. Because the law hides itself not to keep you out, but to test your willingness to see. Not with your eyes, but with your word. The law does not beg for attention. It waits to be spoken. It does not clamor for praise. It responds only to rhythm. And so many walk past the treasure because they do not believe wealth could be this quiet, this spiritual, this accessible. I have seen it again and again. A soul begging for breakthrough while unknowingly denying the very law that would bring it. A man praying for open doors while cursing himself in conversation. A woman affirming abundance in the morning and rehearsing lack by noon. They say, "Where is the secret? Where is the power?" And I say, it is beneath your breath. It is underneath your noise. It is in the sentence you keep skipping. The secret law is not buried because it is distant. It is buried because it is daily. And unless you are willing to treat the daily as sacred, the sacred will never become visible. The divine hides not to punish you, but to see if you'll align your rhythm before asking for your reward. You think the billionaire became powerful by strategy alone? You think they ascended by tactics and tools? Number. They learned, whether by revelation or repetition, to command. They learned to see before receiving, to declare before experiencing, to act from identity rather than wait for identity to be handed to them. And here is the truth. They live by a law you have been quoting all your life, but never activating. As he thinketh in his heart, so is he. By thy words thou shalt be justified. Speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. These are not verses to admire, they are vault codes, and every time you use them in rhythm, you unlock substance. Every time you skip them, you stay in lack, not because God has denied you, but because you denied the law. I remember a woman who asked me, "Florence, why is my business stuck?" I listened, not to her question, but to her vocabulary. She was speaking defeat. She was praising the delay. She was hosting the very spirit of limitation with her tone. I told her plainly, "Your words are feeding the very wolf that devours your wealth." I gave her new speech. I gave her rhythm. I gave her law. And within weeks, the shift was visible. Not because I performed a miracle, but because she finally obeyed one. Because she stopped looking for complicated paths and started walking in simple power. She discovered that the law was not locked, it was muted, and all she had to do was unmute her own spiritual voice. You who are watching now, you who are reading, you who have been circling the mountain and waiting for the sign, you are not lacking access, you are lacking alignment, and the law is not avoiding you. It is surrounding you. It is in the words you're afraid to declare. It is in the identity you keep denying. It is in the phrase you whisper only when no one is around. I know I'm meant for more. And I'm here to tell you, you are. Not because you hustle harder, not because you are special by birth, but because you were chosen to see what others ignore. You were chosen to hear the law beneath the noise. So do not look outward for permission. Look inward for pattern. Do not chase the system. Speak the rhythm. Because the law hides only until you are ready to walk in the light. And if you are still here, if you have remained through every chapter, through every law, through every unveiling, then the law has not just hidden itself from you, it has now revealed itself to you. And you must declare, I now see what others ignore. I now speak what others fear. I now live by the law that others deny. And because of this, I rise. There are phrases that feel harmless. that sound casual, that escape the lips of the unconscious with ease. And yet they are spiritual contracts, invisible agreements with lack, unseen permissions for poverty to remain. And while the average soul may repeat them 100 times a day, the billionaire does not. Not because they have money, but because they have mastery. Not because they've arrived, but because they've aligned. These 5 phrases are never spoken in the realm of divine wealth, not because of superstition, but because of law. Because in the kingdom of vibration, the tongue is not ornamental, it is legislative. The billionaire understands, whether intuitively or intentionally, that the mouth does not describe reality, it authors it. And therefore, these 5 phrases are not just wrong, they are unlawful. They are spiritual crimes against the truth of supply. And if you want to enter the frequency of wealth, you must exile them from your language now and forever. The first phrase is, I can't afford that. It sounds logical, even responsible. But it is the language of exile. It is the vocabulary of separation. It trains the soul to identify with lack rather than law. The billionaire never says, I can't afford that. If the thing is not presently prioritized, they may say, that's not aligned right now. But they will never tie their identity to the inability. Because what you repeatedly declare, you inevitably embody. And the moment you say you can't afford, you stop summoning provision and start summoning pity. Replace it now. Say, if it is mine by law, the means will appear. I do not limit what law can provide. The second phrase is, I'm trying my best. This is not humility. It is a hidden justification for inertia. It sounds noble, but it is a shield for powerlessness. The billionaire does not try. They decide, they decree, they align. Trying leaves room for failure to feel noble, but decision eradicates delay. When you say, I'm trying, you unconsciously prepare to excuse the absence of manifestation. But when you say, I've decided, the universe reorganizes itself to meet your tone. Declare instead, I am now fully aligned with divine outcome. My word creates, my path unfolds. The third phrase is, let's hope this works. Hope is beautiful when it precedes action, but when it replaces declaration, it becomes spiritual laziness. The billionaire does not hope. They know. They do not wish. They instruct. Hope without word is drift, and drift never leads to dominion. You must shift from vague optimism to specific command. You must trade the feather of hope for the sword of law. Say not, I hope. Say, this works because I have declared it. It is finished in spirit before it appears in form. The fourth phrase is, this always happens to me. Oh, what a binding spell. This phrase, cloaked in complaint, is one of the most powerful manifesting tools in the hands of the unconscious. Every time you say it, you tie your past to your present and invite it into your future. The billionaire never speaks this way. They see patterns not as prisons, but as invitations to break rhythm. They interrupt cycles with speech. They declare new expectations even while old ones still try to dance. So if you've been saying, this always happens to me, reverse it with holy defiance. That was the old rhythm. I now walk in new law. Favor now repeats. Goodness now returns. And the fifth phrase, perhaps the most poisonous of all, is, I don't know what else to do. This is the vocabulary of spiritual amnesia. It pretends to be honest, but it denies the divine intelligence already placed within you. The billionaire does not dwell in confusion. They abide in clarity even before clarity arrives. They declare, I am being shown the next step. Wisdom now floods my path. I know what to do because I'm led by divine law. You are not directionless. You are not abandoned. You are not guessing. You are guided. And when you declare that guidance exists, it reveals itself. Say, I now receive divine instruction. My next move is made clear by law. Beloved, if you will remove these 5 phrases from your mouth, not as an experiment but as a covenant, you will feel your reality change. You will feel the veil lift. You will feel the frequency of wealth begin to build itself around your word. Because the law is not picky, but it is precise. And every word you speak is either constructing your palace or carving your prison. Choose wisely, speak lawfully, declare boldly, and never again utter the phrases that billionaires have buried. There is a moment in every spiritual journey where the seeker must confront not the outer world of appearances, but the inner world of assumptions, the subtle architecture of thought that forms the stage upon which all experience unfolds. Most people do not think, they remember. Most do not create, they replay. They believe they are deciding, but they are merely defaulting. And the billionaire, the spiritually awakened financier, does not fall prey to this illusion. For they have learned, whether by revelation or repetition, that thought is not opinion, not mental chatter, not logical deduction, but the silent word beneath the word. Thought is spiritual speech. It is the rhythm of inner law. And until you learn to think in law instead of lack, you will continue to manifest from history instead of authority. Lack is not a condition, it is a thought form. It is an internal weather pattern created by belief. And just like the clouds part when the sun asserts its place, lack dissolves when divine thought is spoken. But most do not know this. They think the problem is money, or time, or economy. But I tell you, the problem is thought. The issue is rhythm. The challenge is the inner conversation you have refused to confront. For how can a man live in abundance while meditating on absence? How can a woman rise into wealth while rehearsing unworthiness in the silence of her own mind? You cannot drink from a polluted well and wonder why the water makes you sick. And you cannot manifest from law while drinking daily from the cup of doubt. To think in law is to speak in spirit, even when the outer voice is silent. It is to wake up and say, without speaking, today the universe rearranges for me. It is to walk into a room and know, not hope, that favor precedes you. It is to approach a bill and feel no panic because the inner word has already paid it. It is to move through disappointment without confession of defeat, because your internal courtroom has already ruled in your favor. Thinking in law is not positive thinking, it is judicial thinking. It is spiritual litigation. You are the judge, the jury, and the legislator of your experience, and your inner thought is the gavel. How then shall you think in law? You begin by installing spiritual response in place of habitual reaction. When the fear thought arrives, you answer it, not with logic, but with law. When the old phrase arises, I'll never have enough, you say within yourself, my supply is spiritual and limitless. I am already funded in divine mind. When the doubt creeps in, this may not work, you answer without emotion, it is already done. Law has spoken, I walk in result. You do not allow mental squatters to live rent-free in the temple of your mind. You evict them with declaration. You replace them with wealth thoughts, chosen rhythms, sacred phrases that build your throne one layer at a time. Scripture says, before they call, I will answer. That is not poetry. That is law. It means that when your inner thought is aligned, the outer experience is prearranged. That when your mental atmosphere is soaked in truth, the physical world becomes a servant of your consciousness. You do not need to ask and plead and worry. You simply need to set your thoughts as a table in the presence of lack, and the feast of manifestation will come. So, from this day forward, do not just guard your mouth, guard your mind. And do not guard it with fear, guard it with rhythm. Think like law. Think as a sovereign. Think as one who knows the invisible is the cause and the visible is the result. Say silently, I am now thinking from wealth, not toward it. I am now hosting the voice of supply, not the echo of lack. My thoughts are ordered by divine pattern, and my results must follow suit. If you will do this, not occasionally, not emotionally, but daily, rhythmically, silently, with conviction, you will begin to walk in a peace the world cannot explain. You will see money arrive and wonder why it took you so long to stop begging and start aligning. You will become magnetic, not because you are trying, but because you are finally thinking like the law you were born to live. Because when you think in law, you no longer ask for permission to prosper. You simply assume your seat, and the world will begin to treat you as royalty, because you have finally stopped thinking like a beggar. There is a holy rhythm in the universe, a frequency that wealth responds to, a cadence that causes doors to open without a knock, payments to arrive without a chase, opportunities to rise without announcement. And while the world scrambles to strategize, optimize, and mechanize their way into fortune, the spiritually awakened know that none of it is required when the voice is in alignment. For the voice is not simply vibration, it is registration. It tells the unseen realm who you are, what you allow, and what must now appear. The voice is your spiritual key, your magnetic stamp, your vibrational resume, and your declaration is your contract. But I do not mean the occasional affirmation whispered with doubt. I do not mean the wishful repetition born from anxiety. I mean the kind of declaration that echoes out of your very bones, the kind that walks ahead of you in the room, the kind that rearranges atoms and angels alike, the kind that comes from a soul who is no longer playing with possibility, but operating in law. And if you are ready, I will give you now 7 declarations, each one forged in spiritual fire, each one designed to replace the noise of the world with the sound of dominion, each one to be spoken not as hope, but as truth, not with apology, but with sacred finality. Speak them slowly, speak them rhythmically, speak them until your voice and your results are indistinguishable. The first declaration is this: I now align with the rhythm of divine wealth, not the rhythm of the world, not the rhythm of your bank balance, not the rhythm of your family's struggle, but the rhythm of heaven. You are tuning yourself now to the current that creates, the pattern that never panics, the supply that never slips. Say it now, not as an idea, but as an identity. I now align with the rhythm of divine wealth. The second, I no longer seek, I allow. This is the most radical reversal of modern culture, for the world says you must chase, you must fight, you must hustle, but the law says no, you must become. Seeking is a symptom of separation, allowing is the fruit of spiritual union. When you declare that you allow, you are saying, I know it already exists, and I now receive it without resistance. Let that become your walk. Let it soften your brow. Let it quicken your steps. I no longer seek, I allow. The third, my words are containers of increase. You are not speaking poetry, you are speaking architecture. You are not filling the air, you are forming the invisible. Every word you speak carries a shape, a signature, a structure. And when you say, large sums come to me now, that word becomes the mold into which the divine pours its gold. Understand this. You do not speak to describe reality. You speak to construct it. Say it now, with conviction. My words are containers of increase. The fourth, every resource obeys my frequency. Resources are not stubborn. They are obedient. They do not require proof. They require permission. Your frequency is the command center. And when you speak from alignment, resources arrive like loyal soldiers. You don't need to know how, they already do. Your job is to vibrate, not to chase. Say, every resource obeys my frequency, and believe that even now, something is moving in your favor because your sound has been released. The fifth, wealth comes to me because I command it lawfully, not emotionally, not desperately, lawfully. You are no longer begging, you are no longer hoping, you are no longer throwing words at the wall to see what sticks. You are commanding from the seat of spiritual government, and when the command is lawful, when it is in rhythm with truth, no force on earth can deny it. Say it. Wealth comes to me because I command it lawfully. The sixth, I do not chase. I reveal. The lie is that you must become something you're not. The truth is you must uncover who you already are. You are not seeking wealth, you are revealing it. You are not trying to reach it, it is trying to reach you. Speak. I do not chase, I reveal. Let this become your posture, your pace, your permanent stance. You are not the pursuer, you are the revealer. And the seventh, the seal, the sovereign decree that anchors all the rest. What I say appears. What I don't, cannot. This is the final law of manifestation. Nothing appears that you have not spoken in faith, and nothing spoken from fear will produce anything of power. Your life is not a reflection of your wishes, it is a reflection of your words. So speak boldly, speak wisely, speak rhythmically, speak daily, speak lawfully. For what you say appears, and what you don't, cannot. Speak these 7 declarations every morning before you check your phone, every night before you surrender to sleep. Speak them not as therapy, but as theology, not as repetition, but as revelation. Let them become your tone, your texture, your timing. For you are not here to learn about wealth, you are here to reveal it. And it begins not with strategy, it begins with sound. There is a silence at the summit of wealth that the world cannot hear. It is not loud with striving, nor noisy with negotiation. It does not race, plead, or prove. It hums with certainty. It pulses with law. And in that realm there is a frequency, a sacred wavelength, where the mind no longer scrambles for strategy because the soul has synchronized with dominion. It is here, in this rarefied vibration, that the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire becomes spiritual, not numerical. For a millionaire may have money, but still think in terms of survival. A billionaire, however, moves from calling. A millionaire builds comfort. A billionaire channels kingdom. And though the world may obsess over decimal points and asset classes, the metaphysical distinction is far deeper. One speaks to accumulate. The other speaks to install. Millionaire frequency still wonders, can I keep this? Billionaire frequency declares, I am here to expand this. One operates from retention. The other flows in multiplication. A millionaire may still carry the residue of scarcity, still tethered to childhood patterns, still rehearsing financial trauma, still speaking carefully, cautiously, conditionally. But the billionaire frequency no longer rehearses what might go wrong. It speaks from what is already written. It is not loud, it is not boastful, it is calibrated. And when a billionaire enters a room, they are not asking permission, they are announcing rhythm. And so I ask you now, not who do you want to be, but what frequency do you choose to tune to? Because frequency is not a wish. It is a walk. It is not a feeling. It is a formula. You can dress like wealth, speak like wealth, but if your frequency is still flinching beneath the surface, if your vibration still bends at the sight of a bill, or shivers when asked for your rate, or buckles under the fear of rejection, then you are not yet speaking from law. You are still reacting to appearances. You are still praying from distance. But the billionaire frequency does not pray for miracles, it walks as one. To speak from billionaire frequency is not arrogance, it is agreement. It is agreement with divine mind, with the knowing that what is true spiritually must manifest visibly. It is to stand inside the vault of the invisible and give thanks for what your eyes have not yet seen. It is to say, I am already funded, even when your accounts appear empty. It is to say, my voice is valuable, even when the world has not yet written the check. It is to declare, I do not shrink to be safe, I expand to be sovereign. And the difference is this: millionaires prepare for wealth. Billionaires possess it in spirit before it arrives. There is a sacred difference in vocabulary, too. The millionaire says, I hope it works. The billionaire says, it is already done. The millionaire asks, what if I lose it? The billionaire declares, this multiplies by law. One is measuring, the other is manifesting, and the pivot point between the two is not money. It is metaphysics. It is the realization that all outer riches are echoes, echoes of rhythm, echoes of alignment, echoes of internal decree. And when you walk in billionaire frequency, you no longer wait for wealth to prove itself to you. You prove yourself to the word. You step into the identity of divine source and let substance obey. So now speak with me, not as one climbing toward wealth, but as one remembering it. I no longer hope to arrive. I speak from where I've already been sent. Say, my voice does not report my conditions, it rewrites them. Say, I do not chase money, I move as money's master. Say, my mind is no longer small, I stretch to contain nations. And let the old millionaire mindset fall off you like worn-out garments that no longer fit. Let the language of maybe be replaced with the decree of must. Let the whisper of self-doubt be drowned in the roar of divine inheritance. You are not here to merely be rich. You are here to demonstrate wealth as a spiritual law. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to instruct it by frequency. So ask yourself now, am I still managing wealth, or am I embodying dominion? Am I still negotiating with fear, or am I legislating with law? Am I still counting dollars, or am I calling forth kingdoms? Let the answer rise in your chest like a holy certainty. Let your mouth say only what law can fulfill. Let your silence be strategic and your speech be sacred. Because billionaire frequency is not a number, it is a knowing, and that knowing now belongs to you. What makes a man wealthy is not found in his portfolio, his property, or his profession. What makes a woman wealthy is not in the sparkle of her jewels or the sum of her salary. What makes a soul wealthy is invisible. It is the rhythm behind her words, the structure behind her thoughts, the spiritual scaffolding that supports every outward form. The world is obsessed with what can be seen: cars, digits, signatures, symbols. But I tell you now with the full authority of divine law, what manifests is only the echo. What moves the world is not matter but mind, not currency but consciousness, and not ambition but alignment. This is the secret billionaires may not even know they're following, but their lives are a testament to it. They have become wealth inwardly, and the universe, by law, was required to echo that inner image. I have said before, and I will say again with force, you do not get rich, you reveal riches. You do not manufacture millions, you manifest the rhythm that multiplies them. There is a vibration in the soul of the one who walks with divine wealth already written in their name, and when they speak, when they declare, when they move, all of creation conspires to reflect back what they have already accepted as truth. The one who sees only the outer forms will forever be deceived by surface, but the one who understands law, the one who hears the invisible drumbeat beneath appearances, knows that every bank account, every investor, every contract, every opportunity was summoned not by cleverness, but by consciousness. You must never again chase results. You must become rhythm. You must never again bow to numbers. You must speak as numberless, for divine supply is infinite. The laws that govern wealth are the same laws that govern light. They move at speed. They obey frequency. They do not consult your resume, your effort, or your effort's history. They search only for agreement, and agreement is invisible. It is what happens in the inner sanctuary of your being. When you stop wondering whether you're allowed to have more and start remembering that abundance is your assigned inheritance, sealed by law and delivered by word. The wealthy, those who live in law, whether they know it or not, do not ask if it will come. They know it must come. They know not because of pride, but because of principle. They know because they are not asking man to provide. They are allowing divine channels to open through whatever form man takes. And I tell you now, if you keep watching hands and headlines to determine your wealth, you are still a spiritual beggar. But if you turn within, if you attune your speech to the unshakable tone of supply, if you rise each day not to hustle but to harmonize, you will enter into that invisible rhythm where wealth begins to magnetize to you in ways your old self would never have called possible. Metaphysically, wealth is never far. It is only unseen. It is like a radio station always playing, but you have not yet turned the dial. Your declarations tune the dial. Your speech is not just vibration, it is permission. You say, "Let there be light," and there is light. You say, "Supply rushes to me," and it does. You say, "I live from overflow," and the vessels appear to carry the oil. But you must say it from the inner knowing, not from outer need. The invisible laws cannot be manipulated. They must be met, and they are met through resonance, through remembrance, through rhythm. So cast out the old belief that you must see to believe. That is the creed of the worldly. You are not worldly. You are word-born. You believe, and therefore you see. You declare, and therefore it becomes. You imagine, and therefore it descends into form. What you build first is not the business, it is the vibration. What you organize is not your calendar, it is your conviction. What you sharpen is not your skill, it is your speech. And when these invisible patterns are made strong and steady and soaked in certainty, the world bends to reflect what is already finished in spirit. So stop asking to be shown. Show yourself. Speak as the billionaire frequency. Think as one who already holds the keys. Walk as one who is carrying invisible contracts waiting for visible fulfillment. And know this above all. When your inner world is governed by law, the outer world cannot help but obey. There is a law that was breathing in you before you took your first breath. It was already written in your bones before your family gave you a name. You did not arrive here to be confused, to be bound, to be kept in chains of fear and generational scarcity. You were born through the gate of spirit, and spirit does not birth beggars. Spirit births decree makers. Spirit births those who command mountains to move. You have wandered long enough in the illusion of chance, of hardship, of hustle, of endless striving through human means, believing you must earn your way to rest, to peace, to supply. But hear me now with the whole weight of spiritual fire. You were never sent here to earn anything. You were sent to remember everything. You were born to live by law, not by labor, and that law, the one that every billionaire has either stumbled into or secretly known, is this: that you are a divine broadcasting station, and the only thing that manifests in your life is that which you have spoken into the rhythm of alignment. The moment you truly accept this, not as an idea, but as your operating system, you will realize that your entire life was not a matter of worthiness, but of vibration. You were not being tested, you were being tuned, and every setback, every silence, every delay was not a punishment from heaven, but a pause of mercy, waiting for your vibration to rise high enough to carry the wealth your spirit is already pregnant with. There is a reason some people walk into rooms and everything bends to accommodate them. It is not charisma, it is not charm, it is command. They are not negotiating with life, they are revealing what life has already affirmed. And if you will dare, even today, to stand in front of your own reflection and speak, not from the pitiful place of hoping to deserve, but from the throne room of spiritual inheritance, your atmosphere will shift, your bank account will shudder, your past will be rewritten by the echo of your word. The world will tell you, work harder, try longer, wait patiently. But divine law says, command, align, and walk as if it is already done. And the moment you obey that law, not intellectually, not experimentally, but as your new metaphysical rhythm, you will begin to live not as the struggler, not as the latecomer, but as the revealer. You did not come here to chase other people's patterns. You did not come here to mimic the steps of the wealthy hoping to find their gold. You came to recognize that the law is already within you, and the vault responds only to your voice. There are those who will hear this message and scroll past it, dismiss it, reduce it to inspiration or imagination. And there are those who will tremble because their soul knows, it knows that this is the moment they stop surviving and begin ruling. They will speak what they have never dared to speak. They will no longer ask life to give them anything. They will announce what is already theirs, and the world, governed by divine law, will organize itself to deliver what cannot be denied. You were born to live by this law, not to study it, not to quote it, but to become it in flesh. You are the walking word. You are the fulfilled decree. You are the proof that the invisible becomes visible through the voice. So walk today not as someone who needs a miracle, but as someone who is the miracle in motion. Speak not from your wounds, but from your throne. And never again question whether the law will work. Question only whether you will work the law. And now, beloved soul, we stand at the edge of the unseen, where the law waits not to be understood, but to be spoken. You did not arrive here by mistake. You were not sent this message by an algorithm. You were summoned by vibration. This video, this word, this decree found you because you were already radiating its frequency. You were already resonating with the rhythm of divine wealth. The only reason you are still listening, still here, still breathing in this declaration, is because something within you already remembers. Remembers the truth you were born with, the law you once lived by, the dominion that can never be revoked. You are not becoming someone else. You are not evolving into something foreign. You are returning to yourself, to the self that never questioned, never begged, never hesitated, never hid behind effort or approval. You are the remembered heir to an invisible empire, and this moment right now is the coronation of your remembrance. I am not here to convince you. I am not here to persuade you. I am not here to hand you a motivational bomb or sprinkle glitter on your goals. I am here, by law, to confirm what your spirit already knows. You are one of them. You are not the exception. You are the encoded. You were designed to speak fortune into form, to command wealth into obedience, to walk into rooms carrying the frequency of inheritance. You do not hustle because you do not have to. You do not chase because you do not need to. You do not wait because what is yours is already breaking through the membrane of time to meet you. You have come to the end of striving and the beginning of speaking. And this is not theory. This is not spiritual suggestion. This is divine instruction. This is law. So here, now, I ask you not to take notes. I ask you not to plan. I ask you not to think. I ask you to open your mouth and say what your old self would never dare to say. Say it with me. Yes, out loud. I now live by the secret law. Say it again. I now live by the secret law. Say it as the key turns in your frequency. Say it as the vault begins to tremble. Say it as the past collapses and the wealth of spirit starts to crystallize into form around your feet. Say it as angels lean in to obey the command that your voice has now given. Say it not like a hope, but like a hammer. Say it not like a wish, but like a weapon. Say it not for motivation, but for manifestation. I now live by the secret law. And as you speak it, feel the inheritance that was delayed now begin to flood. Feel the invisible contract signed by heaven before you were born now fall into your hands. Feel the ancestors who survived just enough to give you this moment now release a sigh as you take your place. Not as their descendant in pain, but as their continuation in power. You are the reversal. You are the restoration. You are the rhythmic voice that speaks what could not be spoken before. And now that you've said it, the law is in motion. Not someday. Now. So I will ask one final thing of you, not as a viewer, but as a lawkeeper. Write it in the comments, say it aloud, declare it in your room, in your car, in your spirit. Let every cell in your body rearrange itself around this declaration. I now live by the secret law. And subscribe not to hear more content, but to enter into covenant. This space is not for spectators. It is for rulers. It is for rememberers. It is for those who know that heaven has already issued the supply, and all that's left to do is speak the command that sets it free. Now rise, say it, walk in it, and remember forever, it wasn't just a video, it was the law choosing you back.